Politician.
You call Donald Trump a hack?
He's a hack politician. He's probably going to make Elizabeth Warren his vice presidential nominee with comments like that.
Do you think he's a
It's
plant?
Anti-American. It's very, very divisive.
You think Donald's a plant?
And I'll tell you who he's going to be president of. You can tell Donald I said this. The Queens County Bullies Association.
It's been an honor and a privilege to serve this president in this country. I will never be able to thank the president enough for what he has been able to allow me to do.
Counsel Robert Mueller sent a letter to the White House counsel this week asking White House staff to save all documents relating to the June 2016 meeting at Trump Tower.
Or President Trump's legal team is resigning tonight. What do you know? Why?
We do know that Mark Corallo, the spokesman for the president's legal team, who's really been in this role for really a couple months or so, he is no longer part of this organization, of this effort here at the White House to speak for the president's outside legal team. And the reality here is, Don, there are some shifting legal strategies and legal teams as well, as the president is bringing in a new lawyer, Ty Cobb, to
Still for a president to pardon himself?
Well, we don't know. No president's ever tried, so it hasn't gone to court, hasn't been decided, but he can certainly try.
News Network. Of course, over the weekend, there was another horrific terrorist attack over in London, and many people were pointing out that this is exactly why President Trump wants to implement his travel ban, which would restrict travel to the United States from several hotbeds of radical Islamic terrorism in the Middle East.
So, Jesse, I mean, it's fascinating to read over these documents and the reporting that the New York Times has now posted tonight. There's so much, for all the talk of how Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump have gone above and beyond the law in terms of getting rid of any ethical conflicts. There's a lot that's just not known about who Jared Kushner's family company, who's investing in it, what country, what businesses from overseas are investing in it. You talked about a huge investment from a company in Israel, and obviously he's tasked with bringing Middle East peace.
Anthony Scaramucci on the phone.
Right. So let's get him. White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci joins us this morning. Anthony Scaramucci, can you hear us?
Is Ryan still there? Yeah. So when I was speaking to you last night, Ryan, I said it was unpatriotic that you weren't telling me who the leakers were. I was on a plane landing in New York. I have to go visit my mom. And so you may have caught it the wrong way. I was teasing you, and it was sarcastic.
What I don't like about Washington is people do not let you know how they feel. They're very nice to your face, and then they take a shiv or a machete and they stab it in your back. I don't like it. Anthony, I'm a Wall Street guy, and I'm more of a front-stabbing person.
Yeah, would never stab someone in the back. That's rude. A gentleman stabs somebody from the front so he can watch the life drain out of their eyes.
The record and documents I have voluntarily provided will show that all of my actions were proper and occurred in the normal course of events of a very unique campaign. Let me be very clear. I did not collude with Russia, nor do I know of anyone else in the campaign who did so.
July 7th and 8th, attending a global summit, the G20 summit, when he got word that the New York Times was working on a story about a meeting that his son, Donald Trump Jr., had with a Russian lawyer back during the 2016 campaign. And Trump and his advisors discussed on the sidelines of the G20 meeting how his son might respond to that. And it actually, by the time they took off on Air Force One on July 8th to head home to Washington, the president actually dictated the statement that his son would end up issuing to the public.
The president really grabs this issue by the horns and makes the argument of how it should be handled. And that's interesting too, because the way it was handled was to conceal some information, to leave out some important information, namely that Donald Trump Jr. held this meeting and agreed to go to it because someone had promised him incriminating information about Hillary Clinton in sort of the pell-mell days of the presidential campaign.
This is another...
Good morning. Attorney General Jeff Sessions made it clear today he's not going anywhere for now.
We love this job, we love this department, and I plan to continue to do so as long as that is appropriate.
That came after President Trump's sharp rebuke of Sessions in a New York Times interview for disqualifying himself from the Russia investigation.
Anthony Scaramucci. Some say that's a sign of chaos in the White House, but I don't think anyone can deny it's been a shakeup.
Look, Anthony and the president and I have all said the same thing. Very grateful to Sean Spicer for his service as press secretary and to serve the president does.
But one of the things,
and
as
people,
someone who's run an office myself, and I'm sorry, Kellyanne, one of the things that I know full well is that if you have a team, you have to make sure that that team can get along and that they're not undercutting each other.
Well, and the White House in crisis, whether you recognize it or not. The credibility
I work there.
Is severe.
Where do you get that? Where do you get that? It's a White House in crisis.
The credibility gap is severe. The president's misleading and false statements on a regular basis to most of the country, even if you're going to stick with that 36% that approve no matter what.
No, you're not looking at. Part of the disapproval are the independents who voted for him and want him to ignore all the nonsense and all the noise and all the Russian nonsense.
If you're watching, I love the hair and makeup person that we had on Friday, so I'd like to continue to use the hair and makeup person.
All right, Anthony.
First time, more Americans support rather than oppose the impeachment of President Donald Trump. This is based on a poll conducted by the admittedly left-leaning PPP, which found that 48% of Americans now support, while only 41% of Americans oppose the impeachment of President Donald Trump. Now,
appointed in the Attorney General, he should not have recused himself almost immediately after he took office. And if he was going to recuse himself, he should have told me prior to taking office, and I would have quite simply picked somebody else.
Election of last year, the Senate Judiciary Committee, in a statement, have issued a subpoena as of last night to compel the Trump campaign chair, Paul Manafort, to testify at a hearing on Wednesday, which would be tomorrow. Part of the statement reads the following. The chair, Chuck Grassley out of Iowa, Dianne Feinstein, the ranking minority member on the Democrat from California, write this. Mr. Manafort, through his attorney, said that he would be willing to provide only a single transcribed interview to Congress, which would not be available to the Judiciary Committee members or staff. So you wonder how that would be helpful, right? Yesterday,
other things, all in front of tens of thousands of children and teenagers in his address, and I use that word loosely, to the annual Boy Scout Jamboree.
I said, who the hell wants to speak about politics when I'm in front of the Boy Scouts, right?
Who the hell wants to speak about politics in front of the Boy Scouts? I think I know someone who does.
A federal judge has ruled that President Donald Trump's commission may request voter roll data from U.S. states in order to investigate voter fraud. However, she said the commission is an advisory body with no legal authority to compel states to hand over the data.
Politico dropped the bombshell on Kushner when they revealed that he failed to pay his employees, citing financial concerns, and asked them to, quote, take one for the team. Like Trump, Kushner apparently finds it perfectly acceptable to hire employees, promise them pay, and then abruptly take back the promise once the job has been completed. It's a long...
Trump just tweeting out a big announcement about the military, saying this, quote, after consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military.
Was made today when the Defense Department lifted one of the last bans on service in the armed forces. Transgender people will now be allowed to serve openly, and they will be eligible for any medically necessary care, including surgery. David.
Effective immediately, transgender Americans may serve openly, and they can no longer be discharged or otherwise separated from the military just for being transgender.
The head of the Boy Scouts said that, look, it is not the intention of us to endorse any candidate. This invitation that we send out to the president each year is just part of a longstanding tradition. It doesn't matter who the person is, if it's a Republican or Democrat. We are basically kind of required as tradition to send that invitation.
Drapes. Most of us know that drapes. Most of us know that President Trump has a Midas touch, so to speak. If you've ever looked at Trump's residence in New York City and his personal plane, you'll know that the man loves gold. Any chance he can get to adorn his space with gold, he takes it. Trump has always been a man who loves to show off his wealth. But Trump isn't able to adorn the entire White House in glittering gold. Each new president gets a $100,000 allowance to redecorate. And most presidents have declined it so they can use their own money. While it's uncertain if Trump used the allowance, he managed to integrate one of his classic touches into the Oval Office. One of his first orders of business after being sworn in as president was to take down the red curtains that Obama put up and replace them with gold curtains.
With the exception of the late, great Abraham Lincoln,
I can be more presidential than any president that's ever held this office. That I can tell you.
Well, it's a threat from the Justice Department to sanctuary cities. If you don't cooperate, you will lose grant money. Attorney General Jeff Sessions made that announcement a few hours ago. The conditions would require jails and prisons to do two things to keep their grant money: allow immigration authorities into their facilities and give the feds a 48-hour notice before an illegal immigrant is released.
Hillary Clinton has 65,788,583 votes. Donald Trump has 62,955,363 votes across the nation, meaning that Hillary Clinton has nearly 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. And again, if you don't know how the system works, Hillary Clinton can win the most populous state, California, by such a large margin that she wins the popular vote overall, even though she lost some of the other states with very narrow margins. I don't know how to react to that. We're speaking different languages. I don't know how to communicate with them. Should I communicate with them just through emotion? Maybe, because the main thing that they seem to respond to is fear and hatred. So maybe you just scare them or make them angry or try to assuage their anger, because they don't listen to logic. So you can give them facts all day long. More than half of them will say, I don't give a damn about your facts. I don't believe it.